Now, Sean, your question is, what is your view on the continuity of consciousness and the duration of the human existence? David Hume's bundle theory and the Buddhist concept of no self appear to represent the same idea of a transient, non-binding existence in which there is no core of being, just as the perception of a self. However, the Buddhists suggest a stream of consciousness that continues on after the physical body decomposes, but this contradicts other such concepts as the panpsychist notion of a ubiquitously conscious universe, i.e. no dichotomy between mind and matter, it's simply all mind. To conclude my question, what is the nature of the self? Now, I went into this in Disciples of the Mysterium, and we will be going again into this as we progress through the next 3 cards of the Path of the Fool, 6, 7, and 8. So, Sean, by all means, when you have time, come and check that out. I think a lot of these questions will be answered in that. I tend to be... I think the ones who think of a stream of consciousness, I think they're also open to the idea that there is a biographical self there, though. Because there is. How could they deny it? Through the myriad experiences of even just your own life. Take 15, even if you're 15 years old, 20 years old, even in the myriad experiences of your own life, some of them which could be, very fascinating to you. Working out to become the best sprinter. You and your dad working on model airplanes, or some other wonderfully interesting, pastime. Your parents are training you to become a pianist. You're totally locked into that. All the interests in which we can find ourselves totally immersed. But yet, at the same time, for all of that, plus all the other domestic minutiae we have to be entangled in, there's still that core biographical self there that isn't sacrificed. And if it is sacrificed, then clearly that person has become neurotic, right? The ones who are lost so utterly. They're actually very anemic people, as a matter of fact. If you study schizophrenics, you'll find out that their lives are deeply impoverished. They may think of themselves as Napoleon or, Jesus or whatever, but those people are not producers of music. They're not people. They sit huddling in the corner, or they're in a madhouse, and an actual phenomenological look at them is very, very, very painful to watch them. So that's the neurotic kind. Most of us, though, are into what we're into. Think about Eddie Van Halen. That guy sat in his room for hours every day practicing his guitar. But he's perfectly sane. He didn't become neurotic. Or Stevie Vai or somebody like that, doing the same thing. Practicing all the time. You think Neil Peart learned how to be a drummer overnight? So one person would say, that guy's obsessed. That guy looks like a drum kit. But the point is, he hasn't lost his core self. And if you came to him and said, well, I'm the devil, and we're posing this to you now, you're either going to have to do drumming and you lose yourself in that, or I'm giving you the chance to keep your biological certainty, the constancy of who you are. Most of us would say, well then, fuck the thing I'm doing. I'm not going to lose my selfhood. I'm not going to lose my sense of identity, even as much as I love this thing. You see, so most of us will choose still to hold on to an identity. So that kind of goes refuting the first part of what you're talking about, where these guys are believing in the stream of consciousness. And that then would bring us to believe in the panpsychic thing, that if we're seeing some sort of flow of time or stream of consciousness, it's somewhat of an illusion. It's a working illusion generated by the mind. And I tend to be more of that school. And in my work, I don't want to say too much about it right now, because I want to deal with this in other works. But I think there's a lot to be said about the panpsychic notion. And as to the universe being conscious, I don't even know why we have to prove that. That's like philosophy trying to prove that there is a world out there at all. That took them 2,000 years, and it's obvious. What happened? But trying now to prove that it's conscious, or it has unconscious workings, or conscious, take it for granted it does. It absolutely does. And we don't need to sit here wasting time proving that. Animals exist. Plant life has its own unconscious processes. The implicate order, right? Look up the word implicate order on Wikipedia. There's definitely a consciousness. The quantum scientists are saying themselves, to the horror of other mainstream scientists, that the more we look at matter, the more it looks like mind. Well, good. As to the dichotomy between mind and matter, we went into this in the Disciples of the Mysterium book, mostly circulating around the ideas of Marx and Heidegger, a German philosopher, who just nixed this idea. Again, by showing that, look, when it really comes to subjects and objects, that's a working illusion that's infected the minds of theologists, theists, and philosophers, but it has really no relevance at all. So any subject, anything based, any religion or ontotheology or philosophy that's based on any kind of hard dualisms, you can just throw that out, because greater minds than ours has proved it to be false. And as to the nature of the self, that's the theme of the whole of Disciples of Mysterium. So, forgive me, we're not going to go into it here. Pick up the book, read it, and you can always email me, with your thoughts on that, Sean. Be glad to hear them. So thanks again for that great question.